It's Wednesday, February 11th at 9 a.m. We will kick off the work session. We're gonna try something a little new with public comment. Instead of just having a general public comment at the very beginning, we're gonna ask people at the beginning to talk about questions they have on the agenda. In these meetings, we don't have a consent agenda, so it would just be the agenda items on the other meetings, just our regular meetings, it would be anything on the consent agenda or agenda items. But we will reserve a public comment at the end for any questions that people have in general. So I will start off by asking, does anybody have any public comment on agenda items we have today? No? Not yet? Okay, anybody online have any questions?
Nothing.
Okay. Christina, you want to kick it off with the treasurer's report? Is the door locked?
Everyone else has been able to get in.
No, that side door was.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it,
Oh,
there's some other people that were able not to.
really?
Yeah, they have the same thing, so.
Well, maybe you need to put a sign on the
Yeah.
front door that says that you need to go to the side door. Cause a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta close that though, cause it's.
We make a motion on that.
I don't think a paper sign will affect the budget that much, that Christina will have to put a line item there, hopefully. They will put under sheriff's. I think Christina can handle it. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is our January treasurer's report. So the format will be familiar. The first section is our bank and investment account balances, and with our reconciling items at the bottom. The next section is how the accounts split out for each of our funds. The next section is our bank code. So these are the pooled cash accounts, our general ledger. So this is how it looks in our books. And the reconciling item above is the match between the bank accounts and the books. The next section is our allocation of those funds by county fund and fund number. And then the next section is our current investment allocation by investment type. And then the second section is the total book value of those investments compared to the total market value of those investments. And then just a reminder that these investments are guided by our investment policy and are typically held to maturity, resulting in lower risk and more predictable returns. The last page is our interest rate tracking, just showing where interest rates are moving a little bit over the prior month. Some interesting information is that we received interest payments of about $75,000 from our investments in January, about $98,000 in interest from the local government investment pool. And then we have accrued interest of about $69,000 from investments that we have earned in January, but has not been paid to us yet. You'll notice the cash balance increased a little bit month over month from December. That's expected. We get most of our cash in November and then we spend it down through the fiscal year. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you,
You
appreciate
did
it.
a good job, Christina, thank you.
Thank you. I guess I can say I did receive the Certified Public Funds Investment Manager designation and passed that test this week. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Kim, do you want to talk about the team lead librarian?
Yes, so I'm Kim from the library, and I also have Amber. She is our circulation services tech. So we wanted to talk about the meeting room policy today and some changes that we are wanting to implement. For several months now, the meeting rooms have kind of gotten out of control. we're finding that people are drinking alcohol after hours. They're leaving the building unlocked. We even had someone stay overnight. They sometimes don't return the keys, and then that's a security issue because the keys get into the main building. They can come in anytime. And then recently there has been people just walking into the main library proper. And while the cleaners are there after their meetings and just returning their books, just like, oh, well, we can just walk in and while you're closed and return our books. So, the parties on the weekends, some don't leave at 10 o'clock, they leave later. And we cut it off at 10, but we're not there to monitor that. So, what we want to propose is only allowing meetings while the library is open during open hours. So that would mean Monday through Friday, it would be 9 to 5:30, or what do we say, 8 to 5:30?
It'd be 8 to 5:30, yes.
8 to 5:30, and we're giving that half hour before we close, so we can make sure that people are out of the building by the time we lock up.
Yes.
And then on Saturday, it would be
8 to 3:30.
8 to 3:30, because we're gonna be staying open till 4 now, so it'd be the 3:30 mark, and then nothing on Sundays.
Okay, obviously I agree with you because I drive by there and I have alerted you to the
Yes.
things that I've seen
Yes,
and wanted to stop several times.
yes.
Do you have a Sunday service though? I got the impression that maybe, is there a church service on Sunday mornings?
Not regularly, no.
Okay, so that is not going to affect, okay.
No.
Already. And it has, I noticed this weekend it was out of control. And I totally agree with you. And the thing is with us, we're looking at core services and our core services aren't to provide a party room.
And that's what people say.
And that is what you're telling
they're
me, that
calling
they
it.
call you and they
Mhm.
say, we wanna book the party room.
Yep.
And I have no problem with the women that are coming in there and quilting or any of that. But it is getting out of hand and I
Yep.
drive by there and like I say, this weekend it was out of hand.
Yeah, and staff are having to clean up the messes.
Well, and it's taking it's wearing and tearing on that
Yep.
building and those tables and those chairs.
Yep.
And who's gonna be responsible? Cause they're not paying anything.
No,
So
no,
it makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Because if you had a $500 deposit, they're damn well gonna do it, but they're not.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think we either have to charge way more or we have to set a limit. So.
yeah, and we are still gonna charge for commercial use,
Okay,
and we did bump that up. It was $20 an hour, and now it's gonna be $40 an hour.
okay, good. I know you were looking into
We
it.
were,
yeah.
yeah,
So if I wanted, so like when Owens Corning Owens Corning didn't have it, but whoever had the job fair,
mhm,
that would have been a commercial use and that would be acceptable if we wanted to do a job fair. And it was done during library hours.
Yes,
But
yeah.
still,
yeah.
any of that would still be
Mhm.
okay.
Anytime money is gonna change hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely for it because like I say, I drive by and it's getting, and they're out on that patio and
Yeah.
it's getting to be a problem.
Yeah, that's not a respectful use of library.
No, and again, we're looking at core services. Is that a core service of us to provide that you could have a party? And B, who is gonna have to go through their budget and figure out the tables and the chairs and that it's gonna be the library, which is, yeah. I'm totally agree with you, Kim and Amber.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, no, I agree too. That's not the function of the library,
Yeah,
in my estimation.
it's just gotten out of control.
What do you have booked now? So you have people, I know that it's booked because it's a free party room.
Mhm.
So what's your plans on that? It's on the books. What do you plan on doing?
So we started as of May 1st.
Okay,
That's when we've started our new hours.
okay, so you're not taking, so you're booked out until May 1st, but at May 1st, it's done.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so you haven't taken any more reservations.
right. And we're only allowing people to reserve the room for up to 6 hours,
Okay,
so that they're not monopolizing, the entire day.
Mhm.
sure.
You have a period of time in which they have to, a lot of places will say you have to do it within a month. Some people aren't doing a year ahead of time or something. like
Yeah,
that.
we only allow 3 months in advance to book.
So
Yeah.
that's your May 1st. That's where you get
Yeah.
that. right
Yeah, so
there. Okay.
February 1st would be the May 1st
Sure.
deadline,
Okay.
yeah, or beginning.
Yeah.
of starting.
So do we need an official motion, Eric, or we can move this to the consent agenda, or how do we handle this, I guess, governmentally?
Yeah, so what I read here in the packet is that a draft policy is being drafted,
Yep,
so.
and we're gonna present that to the Board of Trustees tomorrow.
Okay,
So I
during our
don't think there's
meeting.
anything for you to do today.
okay, and what do you get from them, their attitude about this? Are they kind of prepared to?
We haven't discussed this. We discussed charging for the rooms back in November, because we haven't had a meeting since November.
Okay,
And they had a lot of opinions about that, so we haven't discussed yet this new.
I have a feeling you might get a little bit of backlash on that, but again, where is that money gonna come from? And-
Right.
And it,
Yeah,
and it is, if they drove like me, they'd see it.
yeah, yeah.
Well, where's the liability?
Oh,
Exactly.
If somebody
I
has a
said it.
major fight in there,
Yeah,
or,
like the other day, they had them in the parking lot and they were in the, I mean, no, it's not.
They're out in the lobby, they're in the
Yes,
hallway,
yes.
it's, yeah, they don't,
It's a
they aren't just
safety and
staying in that
liability
room.
issue.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm all for you, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay. If I need to, I can take pictures when I drive by.
Okay.
Be a flashing reporter, but anyway.
Thank you.
Do you have a liability limitation like posting on the door or
Yeah,
no responsibility assumption?
Well, we have them sign a contract
Just think-
that they assume responsibility.
Attendees, if you can do something on the door that says by attending, community events scheduled here, Yeah, just
That's a good idea.
cover legal downside.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
thanks, Jake.
Yeah. For sure.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys very
Yeah,
much.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that this is a really good move.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Have a good day.
You too, Kim, we'll see you.
All right, draft order,
Commissioners, so this is not for approval today, but get in front of you, so if there's any discussion, we can get started on that. The process by which the county is required to foreclose on real property has changed.
Again.
Again, yes.
Again, yeah.
Before Brian left, I asked if he might draft up a policy to reflect the current state of the law. And I think a bang up job. It occurred to me though that maybe the best way to get this adopted is to present it as part of an order, in part because the last time the county had an order on the foreclosure process, it was presented and the Board of Commissioners approved it, and that was back in 2023. This is to help conform the county's practices to the changes required by House Bill 2089. We were sort of informed that it's unlikely the legislature is going to pick up this topic during this short session. And that the state of the law after 2089 is probably going to hold for at least a few years, if not longer. So the purpose again is to conform to those new requirements. In part, it's also to document just the county is going to follow those processes. And as you know, they can be a little burdensome. In some circumstances, the county has to hold on to property for 12 months or longer, or can find alternative methods to try to sell it. Unless you have any other questions for me, what I might suggest is we can put this on the agenda for the 18th for formal adoption, or if you do have any questions, then we can take it back. Wordsmith it and bring it for a future work session. And then once it's settled, set it to a regular meeting for approval.
This is a stupid question I'm gonna ask you. What if we never sold the foreclosed property? We just held on to it. Can we do that? Or is there a mandated that it has to be sold by a certain amount of years or?
Yeah, so the county has an interest in, or heretofore, the county had an interest in selling properties. While the county owned it, it's not being taxed, so it's not on tax roll.
Yeah.
And then the county sold the property under the old system, then that money would be distributed to the taxing districts, like the school district, irrigation district. So there is an incentive for the counties throughout Oregon to sell properties rather than hold on to them. The county, once it forecloses on it, was not required to sell it. They could use it for some purpose.
And that was my question.
Right.
Could we build something on it and just own it unless somebody, an heir came back or whatever?
Yeah, so the county does have the option under the new system to retain ownership. But if there is a decision to affirmatively take ownership of the property, not try to sell it, and retain it for public purpose, the county will still need to jump through a number of hoops. Because there might be surplus value or surplus proceeds, which would need to be distributed, or at least the county would need to try to find the heirs, former owners, and try to distribute it. So it's set up in such a way that, again, counties are incentivized to try to find new owners for the properties, and if not, try to avoid a windfall by retaining property that had been foreclosed upon.
Are the hoops insurmountable if you did decide to build on that?
They're not insurmountable. It does get a little tricky because when you sell the property, that's a pretty good indication of what its value is.
Sure.
If you retain the property, then it is more susceptible to an argument as to what the actual value is compared to the taxes, interest, and fees. And when you have that kind of potential for disagreement, then there is the chance for litigation and some rather expensive claims. So it's not insurmountable. I think most of the counties are very likely to continue their practice of trying to sell the properties, get them back on the tax rolls. And in part to avoid the possibility of some potentially lengthy disagreements with former owners as to what they feel they are entitled to.
And I believe even if you would retain it, there will be at some point, there will be a value of that property going to, if you do a building or whatever happens, but there will be a value that's assessed to that property, and that value will have to be shared. And
To
county will
the
still
other
be
tax, to
liable.
the other tax. It's
It will.
basically
So
your-
that's, I don't personally see any benefit for the county to do that, but I think also that, what I see the big difference into it now, the process is still kind of the same, but any winnings or any profits fall to the state
Yeah,
rather than the county. And so I think as strictly spelled out in here, the county is able to get their costs reimbursed for expenses.
Correct.
So I think that it's important that we maybe come up with a good SOP process, so all of the different county offices that are involved in this certainly make sure that they are accountable for their time and things for the county to get reimbursed. Because many of these properties, the county puts quite a lot of money into them through facilities on tearing down because they're condemned, or trees, or all on and off maintenance and different things that we are entitled to receive compensation for. So we don't get those things lost in that process.
And the finance office, tax collectors have done a really good job about keeping track of what the interest, fees, expenses for taxes have been. We're quite lucky to have them. But you're right, as we go forward in this new process, it'll be helpful to establish just what those new expenses are going to be, so that we can say, here is why we have calculated any surplus, if there is a surplus, as the way we have. And unfortunately, there are frequently times when the county is forced to sell properties for less than the interest, taxes, and fees. That's just unfortunately the nature of the game.
And the opportunity is there to be challenged on those. So it needs to be well documented.
Right.
but legally, if you wanted to build something, it'd be best not to look at the foreclosed property, to just go out as a and buy free and clear another value, basically, is what you're saying.
All things being equal, I think that's probably the cleaner way. And we also keep in mind that a lot of the properties that the counties are forced to foreclose upon, have some sort of problems with them. They have unpermitted structures, they have a bunch of refuse on them. So frequently, these are not terribly attractive properties. and it's just the nature of the foreclosure process. So it's not a common occurrence for at least Crook County to foreclose upon properties where we say, hey, this is great, this is buildable land, let's move forward on it. It does happen, just not very often.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay,
Looks good to mine.
yeah, looks good to me.
Yeah, no, it does. It's just,
Good job.
So I'll follow up with Brianna about getting this on the agenda for the 18th. And if something does come up between now and then, we can see about adjusting the draft and getting an updated version for the regular meeting.
Jake?
Mostly Josie, but.
Do you mind if I stand?
No, not at all.
Okay.
no, this is very informative.
Perfect. Thanks for pulling the slides up and thanks for having me. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Josie Norris. I'm the Director of Community Investments for New Sun. I started at New Sun about 3 years ago. And normally this presentation is about an hour and 15 minutes because we cover the whole state of Oregon. I give it twice a year for our team. So I cut it down significantly and I focused on primarily on the projects that we're supporting here in Crook County. So I'll just jump right in because we've got a lot to get through. And I'm actually going to have Jake sort of kick it off. If you want to go to the next slide, and talk about the inception of the program since it's his baby.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jake Stevens, and I'm the CEO and founder of New Sun Energy. And I started New Sun about 10 years ago. And doing the math on age, I recently realized I'm about almost 20 years into being an energy professional in terms of developing, clean energy power infrastructure. When I started New Sun in 2015 and 16, as I launched and quickly became focused on Oregon, it was important to me to begin looking for and establishing kind of part of my long-term vision, how we would reinvest in the communities where we do business. We are a small, closely held company. I have less than a dozen investors and I own over 90% of the company. And we've essentially bootstrapped and invested our way up from initial interconnection requests to Bonneville on my credit cards to having invested coming up on close to $500 million in Central Oregon, a couple $100 million of operating solar power plants now that are in Lake and Harney County, each paying about $280,000 in property taxes there a year, as well as a lot of that has really been investing in Crook County in particular, and then a lot of the things around investment and developing the pipeline to make all of these things happen, which ultimately take many, many years. But as I hope you guys know and have seen, we take a very local relationship focused everything that we do. It's very much meeting people in person, shaking hands, talking with ranchers, county planners, sort of everybody in our incredibly diverse sphere of interactions, from surveys to engineers to lawyers, everything. And at the beginning of that, I began reaching out in the community, initially in Burns in particular, saying, hey, we're going to be looking for things that we can do to invest. Please advise us, give us advice, asking the landowners, the planners, and people that later brought back recommendations to us. And Susie will talk a little bit about that. There was just a lot of listening and taking really good advice from folks as we launched, and that was really born into this program, where we knew my vision all along was to build a company that would eventually own and operate power plants. And so we began wiring into our DNA, literally into the ground leases of projects, money that we would protect to reinvest in the community. And we've done that on projects we built before, where we have a couple $100,000 a year that essentially comes out of that we have then reinvested into scholarships and a variety of things Josie's going to talk about. But really, those were small projects, the seeds of which were growing, and we intend to keep scaling as things come larger. The first thing we ever did was committing to the Harney Cattle Women's Scholarship Program. We went to our first county fair, which is something that one of my landowners said, hey, if you want to support our community, we support our kids. That's what we care about. Come to the 4-H auction, buy an animal, and get to know folks. And in 2016, weekend after Labor Day, I went to my first ever county fair, and New Sun has been present and at Lake and Harney and then Crook and a few other counties now, fairs ever since then, buying animals, but also slowly increasing our scholarship contributions. Breakfast, sort of the community self-supporting, these scholarships to kids to go through the Cattlemen's Association became something that with each project we built in Harney County, we dedicated 1,000 and 2,000 to $1,000 per 10 megawatts to recurring rolling scholarship commitments. When the first project came online, I had the landowners office chief say, hey, we should talk. And she drove from Burns to Bend to present the Harney Hospital Board's Foundation's proposal to help them expand rural medical access, which Josie will talk more about. But ultimately, the main thing I want you to understand as we go through this is kind of how it's been woven into our DNA and how we use our independence. We're not owned by private equity funds or publicly traded companies. This is a new son who is based and headquartered here in Central Oregon and growing our team and commitment. And this is part of our long-term vision and something that we're committed to growing here. And Josie will talk about kind of where we're at today and hopefully get a sense of the trajectory that we're on going forward. And I'll
You can go to the next slide, actually.
hand that back to Josie.
So Jake mentioned earlier, but a lot of our investments that we make come from referrals from people that we meet in the community when we're out and about. Here's a snapshot of a few photos from around Pineville. You probably know a lot of these folks. You'll feel, clearly a lot of our investments go to supporting the youth in Crook County. This is over at Barnesview Elementary, some outdoor education. This is Barnesview, some of the trails that we helped support and maintain. This is Max, a couple of years ago. Max from my team with Seth Smith at the fair. This is Grace Boudreau, one of the recipients of one of our scholarships. And this is us at the county fair this last year, buying the grand champion penguin rabbits from Hayden. We can go next slide. So I think at the core of our programs are sort of some of the basics of how it works. As Jake mentioned, there's a tiny percentage of revenue that gets deposited into Community Benefits Fund every year for all of our active projects. And that money gets replenished every year for the lifetime of the project. So I have the really fun job of making sure that money gets distributed to the local communities where we do business. A lot of our we take this sort of trust-based approach. A lot of the partners are already in the community. We know them, you guys know them, and there's not a rigorous application process. There's not a rigorous reporting requirement. It's very relational in how we work with our partners. We like to provide that sort of commitment to multi-year funding as a nonprofit organization. Or any cause really. It's important to know that there's that guaranteed reinvestment, and it's not just a one-off. So almost all of our investments are multi-year. We do some small sort of $500 donations and up to 25,000 is sort of the typical range, but there's nothing set in stone. We do some bigger ones and ones on the smaller side. And you'll see that we really do look for opportunities to make a relatively small investment that has an outsized impact, and you'll see that come up later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So since 2016, we've invested about 1.4 million, and a significant portion of that has been in Crook County, about 232,000. Actually, I think that might be, we just made another investment, so that might be a tiny bit higher now. Next slide. Here's sort of a breakdown of how that is. Our investments are scattered across the state of Oregon. You'll see these 4 counties in dark green are where we have active projects and where our headquarters is. Harney, Lake, Deschutes, and Crook, obviously. And then as New Sun expands, we're starting to make investments sort of more broadly in the state. The next slide. Here's our categories of funding and how it breaks down. This is sort of a statewide view. So the majority, or sort of the biggest piece of the pie here is in county fairs, 4-H, FFA. Access to healthcare is the next biggest, followed by education, environment, and research, environment, and recreation. Next slide. In Crook County, you'll see the biggest investment we've made is in fairs and 4-H, buying animals through the auctions. Education is a huge one, followed by recreation and then public health.
Can you give me an example of what the public health is in Crook County that you've done?
Yes, we're going to get to that. Let's see.
Oh, okay, then go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. The public health one, we've done some, smaller ones, and public health is kind of a more broad umbrella, but, Crook County on the Move, really amazing sort of smaller community group, but when they need something, they come to us. And so I kind of put that in the public health category. And then some other sponsorships and donations, but I will talk more about that later, because there's, an instant conversation.
Yeah, and generally, we're happy to discuss, we're sort of, you
Yeah.
know, give us a rough sketch of time, but we're happy to talk longer and answer any questions and so forth too, so.
Yeah, I'm meeting with Angela from St. Charles Foundation next week to learn more about some of the sort of needs within the healthcare community here in Crook.
You should also give a little bit of your background, also how you into it and how we started that work and how we're supporting it.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that in terms of like foundation dollars. Yeah, so in addition to meeting with community partners and making these investments, in the last year, really, or maybe a year and a half, I've tried to make a big effort to connect with other funders who do funding and investing within Crook County and the other counties where we work, recognizing that we're just one company. As Jake always says, we're not Nike, but I've been able to make connections with other foundations that do have money available. So trying to, when we can't support something, pass that along to other foundations, and then oftentimes they're able to, support an organization. So trying to leverage our relationships to like funnel additional dollars into the community.
Yeah, and also really, I mean, Josie's background has been in the space for 20 years now as well, so she has a lot of relationships, but like our biggest strength is our agility and ability to make decisions quickly, and like it's really hard for nonprofits to go through these processes or these needs emerge and come up. Sometimes they're very spontaneous, like in Lake County when the food bank's roof collapsed, right? There was somebody dealing with an issue. We were able to step in and commit funds and offer to match funds and then pull in others to help them solve a problem very quickly that we can make it in hours instead of months. And that's really, and I leverage that in relationships with Josie, calling Roundhouse and other groups like that. All of them.
Yeah. So this is our most recent investment in Crook County. I don't know if you've heard of this before. It's called the Little Wonders Program. High Desert Museum is partnered with Neighbor Impact here in Crook County, and they provide free 2-year admission for families with kids the ages 3 to 5 to be able to bring low-income families to the museum. They actually provide gas cards to make sure that the cost of fuel isn't a limiting factor for the families to visit the museum. So our funding went specifically to helping to recruit Crook County families to participate in the program. And they are hoping to reach almost 70 families with those free 2-year passes for the museum. And we just made that investment last week. Next slide, Environmental Center. We have given them a pretty significant multi-year grant. I think total is $55,000 specifically for Crook County. To do environmental education through their Garden for Every School program, where they have garden boxes at every elementary school. They do programming where they have an educator come in and teach kids about how to grow sustainable food. This year specifically, they were able to hire somebody that's able to offer those classes and programs in both Spanish and English. Next slide.
Sorry. And just highlighting here, like one of the themes we have is like looking for places where values align, right? Like, we all come from different blocks and New Sun, and we have Bend and Urban, and people like me that grew up out of state. Part of our philosophy is I hope this has been evident, is looking for places where we connect and where, values supporting kids, education, the outdoors, agriculture, viability, et cetera. This is a great example to us of a project that came to us that's like, hey, you've got kids in cities that don't know where the food comes from, so we're helping to fund these garden boxes in Bend, so kids can learn that. In Crook County, this is a very agricultural county, you also have kids that don't have access to that, just given where they grew up and what their families do and don't do. And so that's something where it's very easy for us to be like, yeah, this is a great area that like things we care about, community cares about, and just kind of common sense. And it's sort of silly that maybe some kids don't ever get a chance to grow their own food or have a garden. So $5,000, the kid will get the rest of their life to be able to know that they can grow their own food and things like that and how those things work. So that's also this embodies this small dollars that have outsized impacts. We're thinking about like spending $1,000 or $5,000 or $25,000 can affect somebody's life, you know, for the long term. That's really easy for us to make a quick decision. And this is one that we scaled where we originally did for environmental in Bend and I think the Burns program. And then, you know, so they came and said, well, about Crook County, we said, yeah, absolutely.
We go to next slide. Central Oregon Trail Alliance, we made 2 smaller donations done in the last few years, specific to Prineville. One was to do some work on trails up at Barnes Butte, including ADA access in the parking lot. We also did one for them to help improve signage that about the trails that exist throughout Prineville and Crook County. This is a good example of trying to leverage my network. I was able to make an intro with Meta for these guys, and Meta made a couple of larger donations to CODA to support some of their projects here in Cook County.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep kind of connecting the value and strategy threads, right? Like, you know, trails last forever, you know, they are also part of economic tourism. And one of the things that we saw is we're building our current project in Crook County, where all our contractors trying to build a workforce here to keep building, work with for years and get people to relocate back to Prineville. We've had people that literally moved back to Prineville because there would be jobs here. And we said, well, we're working on mountain biking trails. And they're like, oh, it'll be really easy. You know, those types of things help us attract people that say, hey, we want to come live here and move to Crook County and Prineville, you know, instead of Bend, et cetera. So again, you know, small dollars that have long reaches and kind of reach across a few different parts.
Yeah, thanks. All right. I'm sure you all know we show up in a big way to county fairs. You've seen a lot of you there. It's, you know, one of our biggest, or it's our biggest investment in Crook County has been through 4-H auctions and the county fairs. You know, it's by far the highlight, I think, from the New Sun team of the year. Everyone on our team shows up at different county fairs throughout the state. They bring their families. You know, we go to the 4-H auctions and buy animals. And yeah, it's just a highlight of my year as well. This year we invited our construction partners, I think Solve Solar Construction, which you probably all know, to attend the fair. They've never been. And they ended up, you know, following our lead on this and invested almost $20,000 buying animals for the first time. So again, trying to continue to find opportunities to bring more dollars into the county. You can scroll down.
Well, and I want to, there's more pictures, but
Yeah.
I think also like, again, for us, we're a very values-based company. And so part of this literally has become like mandatory as a New Sun employee. You're going to a county fair. We want to, you know, we want our new people to learn the communities we're in. And part of that is like learning, you know, knowing people, being part of the fabric, learning, being respectful, showing up and understanding, you know, we just believe that understanding and being part of the community is a different approach. And that's how I want every New Sun employee be and understand and get where we're doing business and develop those relationships for themselves so they can manifest that in the community. And I think it's been really powerful for me and just become, like she said, one of our favorite parts of this. And, you know, ultimately we're watching kids grow up, you know.
Yeah, we have another slide of that even that exemplifies it, but we bought the Grand Champ steer from Paisley Reynolds this year at the fair. We had Teddy, which was the steer, butchered over at Butcher Boys, and I went and dropped off a couple of containers of meat and at the Reynolds Ranch and met with her grandma and said that, you know, 4-H animals have helped pay for you know, college education for all of her kids, which was, got to spend some time with her, which was a great way to connect.
Paisley's in 9th grade and wants to go study water law. The other thing that's in the dollars that I'll just tie together here is, right, is we've gotten this, you know, we are modestly capitalized, but we have this sort of ramp up and part of my philosophy and strategy has been very clear. Like starting to invest and kind of lay the groundwork of where we're going, and then we get to the point of building something scaling up. So this year, you know, we've been coming to the Crook County Fair for I think 4 years now, and we started working on some things before that. But really, this year was all right. We are building. We've crossed the threshold, and we're going to ramp up what we do, and that's going to continue to be the philosophy that we employ as well.
Yeah.
With each project that we build, when we cross the threshold this year, all right, we're putting steel in the ground, and now we can start to spread these dollars around these bigger projects and sort of ramp up that commitment at that point.
Speaking of kids, watching kids grow up, Max had bought this steer from Seth Smith in 2022, and then just totally randomly, a couple years later, Jake happened to buy an animal from him as well. So we've got two pictures of Seth. Just a coincidence. All right, next slide. And so we do buy a ton of animals around the state, and so we know we do keep a few and butcher them and distribute the meat across New Sun employees as well as some of our partners. But we donate a ton of it. 1017 Project is a big beneficiary. We had Holly McLean come talk to our team at our presentation, this presentation that we did back in December. And we also, across the state have made big donations to the Mop and Food Bank, senior centers, high schools, really any opportunity we can to forward those dollars and the, high quality beef along to the community. We try to do that. Thanks, Colin.
And even the laborers, this year we brought out the meat locker to the field so that the guys building the projects actually were they come beef from the fair.
I took home like 1,000 pounds of it. And we're gonna move into education and talk a little bit about that. We're gonna do a mix. We've done a lot of investing in sort of local community-led scholarship programs here in Crook County, in addition to managing our own. The Rotary Foundation, Rotary on the Radio scholarship program we've been supporting for several years now. That's sort of our biggest beneficiary of scholarship dollars. We supported the Crooked River Roundup Foundation for the first time last year. We attended the dinner. I think we saw Commissioner Crawford there. And it was really cool. While we were there, we had just awarded our scholarships, and one of the students that was serving at the dinner came over to us really excited and grateful because we just awarded her a scholarship. So great connection to the community. Most of you probably heard about this because I think I've called and emailed and harassed you all about it the last several years, trying to help support it and get the word out about it. But right after I started, the first thing I worked on was this climate and ag scholarship program. It was sort of Jake's brainchild that he'd been wanting to do for a long time, but didn't have the capacity. So we every year we just launched the application last week, which is our 4th annual climate and scholarship program, or essay contest, where we ask graduating seniors to write an 800 to 1,200 word essay about the impacts of climate change on their community, specifically around ranching and farming. So we're hearing incredible stories from students all across the state of Oregon. We make this scholarship available to the county where we do business across the state. Since we started the program, we've awarded scholarships to Crook County students every year. We do make an effort to try to keep in touch with them, although there's some of them I lost track of, but some of them we do. But the really unique thing about the scholarship program is that we invite a really diverse range of people to be on the review committee and read and score the essays. So we have state representatives, state senators, county commissioners, executive directors of nonprofits, business leaders from the renewable energy industry to really hear these stories and connect with the students. And so I think that piece of it is something, in addition to the investments we're doing in the students, there's this, human connection piece that this program can really support.
And really, it's like, this is kind of just how my head works, but really cross-pollination. This is designed to be sort of a sensitively phrased, but agricultural communities have a unique relationship with the weather, without saying a whole lot, discuss your observations based on your communities with respect to climate, renewable energy, agriculture, et cetera, and it's sort of a talk amongst yourselves and a very anything you want to say. And we've had such thought-provoking answers from these kids that as soon as we got the first essays in, I realized, as I've been trying to work on, I'm working on permitting and climate, renewable energy policies, the legislature and so forth. And I've got we've been really well supported by rural communities, permitting, Crook County as well as Harney and Lake County. And I've found in this weird position where I'm trying to explain to the environmental groups that you could actually pass policies that would be supported because of the economic benefits to these counties that have been supported. And they're like, that's just silly. Republicans are never going to support any of this stuff. And, leading to me being like, I'm going to send these essays that these 16 and 17-year-olds wrote to Democratic legislators because they can't even visualize the political possibilities because they don't understand rural communities. And so we've used this as a way to sort of bridge the divides of that. And we've had just incredibly thoughtful essays from, Avery Hammond, who I bought my first ever hog from a few years later, talking about where he's gonna go to, a girl in Paisley, helping us understand that I've quoted 100 times, what happened during the bootleg fire and that, families were slaughtering their herds because to deal with these really, hard economic situations, which help us understand what's going on better. But then also, again, next to another landowner in Lake County saying our ranch was cash flow positive this year because we had a rent check coming from a solar project. Just coincidence, in 2019, we sent him our first check. That year, he's slaughtering his animals and beef prices have collapsed and it helped protect their ranch. So then we were able to use that to sort of show how the things fit together. So it's really, literally getting like Central Oregon Land Watch to read these essays so they can understand that there are ranching families that actually, have interest in this and just, again, kind of like I said, cross-pollination approach and using our position to kind of help people understand each other and how things might fit together.
Hey, the next slide. I pulled a quote from one of the essays that I thought really demonstrated, what a 17-year-old can reflect on around, branches can't just work throughout, and our livelihood is tied to the land, which, is something that leaders from all over the state are processing that and we can have a big impact. So, this is sort of my last slide for Crook County. This is me and Andrea, one of our scholarship winners at the Hoedown, which we're a big sponsor of, which did not happen this year. Is that right?
I don't think the profit margin was quite what they expected.
Oh, darn. Okay. Well, yeah, I loved the event. I'm sorry to hear that it wasn't worth their time, but here's some of the smaller donations that we've made. Again, a lot of these come to us through our partners. Through the Palview Charter School, we just helped them buy new desks and some gym equipment. High school, track and field sponsor, we donated tables to the Crook County Hospice auction to help people attend who might not have otherwise been able to. For Crook County, go to the next one. Jake, did you want to talk a little bit more about this one?
Well, just so you guys have a sense of how we're thinking about that, Josie's already been out working for a couple of years starting to identify things, but there's a lot of versions of this in Lake and Harney County, like, hey, the high school basketball team for girls, Highlanders in Burns couldn't afford, new uniforms. They've been wearing the same ones for 8 years or something like that. And for $5,000 or something, we're basically able to do something that moved the needle, help them with pride. Very small thing that we can decide quickly, but that would have been hard for them fundraising. And it was easily for me to conceptualize how that was supported. Because one of my landowners who owned one pivot and drives the school bus to support his farming habit, has told me like, hey, I'm driving kids to games and they can't afford the lunch to go on the bus trip to an away game to play football somewhere. And so sometimes kids can't do that. And I'm like, we have situations where, that is people's lives and it's that tight. And we're able to then kind of use that knowledge of what's going on and just make decisions quickly that we think are high impact. And they may seem small, I think probably to other people in other places, but to us, it's just the ability to listen and take it back that we're agile. Josie and I can have a conversation, 10 to 20 minutes and make decisions about some of these things. But the long game also is as we're looking for bigger, longer term impacts that reflect the scale investments as projects come online. We are looking for the larger things that we can do, and this project. I guess should I introduce how this came about? Is an example of that. I'm December of 2015, as I was in Burns in office meeting with Sharon Root, saying, hey, can you keep an eye out for me? I didn't know she was on the hospital board at the time, but 4 years later, she said, hey, I want to come present to you and I have a proposal. And she didn't tell me what it was. And I said, well, we can just do something remote, you don't have to drive all the way to Bend. We know each other. And she said, no, we're going to drive. And she brought the chair of the Harney Hospital. And they came over and said, look, for the last 5 years or so, our community has been trying to figure out how to expand a specialty clinic at the hospital. We had a building donated and our community's been raising the money to try to expand rural medical care. And because of a new federal regulation that required eye washing station that we would not be able to administer chemo in Burns and people have to drive to Bend in order to go to the hospital, these basic things, we had to spend $300,000 upgrading some stuff that blew our entire money for this specialty clinic remodel. We have this $1 million budget to remodel this building. But if we have this, we're gonna be able to have orthopedic specialists, skin cancer, dermatologists, and they had a whole list of things that would help people get routine care and not have to drive 120 miles in the winter and icy conditions and put off care. And, you know, we're literally risk dying to just get basic care. And can you help us? We have this $400,000 gap that we need to cover, and we're gonna flex this thing and this thing, but essentially the community has really volunteered time and resources to get this, and the whole thing is about to fall apart. And I basically made the decision, you know, on the spot in this meeting. And we committed on the spot to this, and they were kind enough, I'm not sure we would have asked for it, but offer us to, you know, being able to put their name on the building as part of that. But effectively, as a result of that, this is Sharon here, and this is Judge Reynolds, and the Hardy Hospital, and Alicia, the chair, and now like watching her kids barrel race the fair, et cetera. But there is now a Newson Energy Hardy District Hospital specialty care clinic. And they've been able to use this beautiful facility to attract doctors who are, you know, willing to come work in what is legally classified as a frontier hospital, which is a regulatory classification. And now they have people that have literally moved, you know, top care providers to Burns in order to do this. And so it's not just the building, but like the talent and all these other things that feed in. And to us, it was just, this is the community taking care of itself, taking care of their own, investing and flexing. And we wanted to support that, embody it, and it exists now. And we're looking for the next wave version of these things to do as we move into building bigger and bigger projects. We only built 40 megawatts in Harney County, 10 megawatt projects. This first project out here on the road, we have 40 plus 60 megawatts, 56 megawatts. So this is a cornerstone. We're looking for these types of things, and as we build more and more, how to scale up so that we can, you know, do this strategically, high impact dollars that grow with what we're doing.
Yeah. All right, next slide, then I think. So to Jake's point, I think we're looking to you guys, the community experts, about like, what are some of those big project ideas? Again, I've got, you know, a network of folks who are ready to invest, and if there's anything I can do to try to help bring more money into like supporting something that's significant. You know, I'm really looking to you guys to what those ideas would be. So reach out anytime. I will follow up with an email so you have my contact info.
And Josie,
thank you.
do you want to also talk about some of the other rural medical care access things that we've been doing as well?
Yeah, we did one other larger investment to the Duper School-Based Health Clinic, which, you know, the access to healthcare in that region was minimal. And so the school-based health clinics is a model that has had success throughout Oregon. And so they open a clinic which provides healthcare services to the students of the school. I believe it opened a year and a half ago. And as it gets more established and sort of they get their processes worked out, then they will be able to open it to all the families that are in the region, really providing that easy access to healthcare in that area.
It was basically just a super budget conscious. They built a portable building outside the school so the kids could get their stuff. But the long game was, like you said, expanding it. And like Sherman County, you know, a few miles away has no hospitals. There's no long-term care providers or emergency care really at all in the entire county. And so this is just over the border. So it's also flexing. But yeah, it was something where you got brought in because of some of our relationships. Able to make a good decision and help bridge a gap for them. Anyways, yes, this is.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, this is our commitment and what we've been growing, and also hope we can come back and talk with you guys also at some point about, you know, just presentation of other economic benefits, jobs, wages, you know, things like that as well in the future. I think we probably paid, you know, $50 million of wages on site, just on the stuff we're building right now. And then also, I think, maybe another opportunity to come back if you'd like to talk about power infrastructure and how what we see going on, what is actually capable, which I think is more than probably has been suggested in terms of, you know, Pacific Power's view of the world and how investments we've been making here for the last 10 years probably help move the needle quite a bit on ability to work on data centers and other things like that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys have any questions?
No, I do. Oh, go ahead.
Go
ahead.
You went first. This is a personal note, but I'm on the Crooked River Foundation Board and I do the
Okay.
scholarships.
Yeah.
We just revamped our scholarships due to suggestions and I want to thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely. We're meeting with Michelle and I can't remember the board.
Would it be Steve?
Yes, Steve, our community office next week. So
So Michelle, Steve and I was on ag awareness and cattle women and everything in California. And I took those scholarship applications and we revamped and I'm very pleased with how we'll be presenting our new.
okay,
It'll be a little bit more in depth for the kids.
okay,
So I think it'll be great.
awesome.
But thank you again for your
Yes.
donation for last year.
Absolutely.
And that's something, by the way, sort of our value add services, but Josie has a long history of reviewing grants, you know, through the Conservation Alliance. And so they awarded all types of dollars. So she's also helped some of the nonprofits we've done, give them advice and help their boards, because everybody's thinly staffed. So if there's ever things where you think someone could use advice if they're applying for a bigger thing, then we can, you know, help mentor, review applications, and things like that, which I did that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I just wanted to thank you, Josie, and thank you, Jake, for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Especially the 4-H.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
More to come.
And also, even though it is in our county, what you did in Harney. So my husband was on dialysis and there were people that come in from Burns. And they ride the bus all the way over to Bend to get their dialysis. And I see how beat up they are and they get back on that bus and they ride back. And so the fact that you did things for the clinic is tremendously beneficial, not that you maybe fit that niche. But when you see those people and see the toll that it takes on their physical health, it is a very much of a need.
When I started, that is my December 2015 first visit, right? 2016 was the snowpocalypse. Right, so at the time I was in Arizona, I still moved up here. I have a family and kids now here. But like at the time I was flying in and I had to reschedule 5 different times because it was like -10 to 16 and snowy and icy. And so I literally went through this. Should I be driving from, you know, Bend to Burns over and over again and like live that experience? And so as soon as they approached me, I'm just like, how do you go to a doctor's appointment? Like people have cancer and people put off like, you know, I live in town and I still put off my doctor's appointments. And anyways, that was just, we're looking for more of those things and just a lot of creativity on our side. We're literally looking at our extra solar panels from what we just built. We have to buy spares. We have some that are cracked. You know, can we donate them or, you know, make other investments to help reduce OpEx for buildings? You know, like, you know, it could be government buildings or other things like that. But we're just always looking for those things where like small dollars and just common sense and listening allow us to find ways to do stuff like that.
Great, thank you so much. Will, do you have a manager's report?
I do not have anything for you this morning.
We're gonna sneak out. Thank you so much for having me.
For your time, very much.
Susie, you got
Is it
anything?
my turn?
Yeah,
I'm going to COHC tomorrow, which I won't comment, but I'm going to COAC tomorrow, and Brianna was very nice and printed off all these letters that we did. I think last week we did the letter, and I'm gonna present those, and Bill and Brad got me all the statistics, so I am ready to fight for Crook County.
good job.
Not that I'll get anything, but at least I'll fight. That'll be the good one.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm good. All right, public comment, just kind of open, anybody in the, here today have anything? Anybody online? Okay, we are gonna go, oh, I guess I can wait for them to chat.
There's a lot online today.
Okay, we will then move on to our executive session. Crook County Board of Commissioners will now meet executive session under ORS 192666028. Consulting with counsel concerning legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed, representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All members of the audience shall leave the room. Representatives in news media are specifically directed not to report any deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we return to open session and welcome the audience back in the room.
Let me get the.
Okay, the Crook County Board of Commissioners will now leave executive session under ORS 1926602H consulting with counsel concerning legal rights and duties of public body with regard to current litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media designated staff were allowed to attend the executive session. All members of the audience are in the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically reporting deliberations during the executive session, except the stated general substances. Subject of the session is previously announced. No decision was made in executive session. We will now return to open session. Welcome the audience back to the room.
Commissioners, based on the conversation today, I might suggest a motion to decline to pursue action as discussed in the executive session. And then if circumstances ever change, we'll bring it back to you guys for reconsideration.
So,
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Okay,
I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the work session meeting.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Oh, I'm gonna last.